Oh, this little tray of beauties is Anemone Blanda, or the Balkan anemone. Not to be mistaken for the wood anemone or wild anemone that we have here in the UK. These are really eastern Mediterranean plants. They're tough little things, and they've grown really well in the bank just behind me here in Norfolk for the last couple of years, and we're looking to expand this planting up with this tray over the next couple of hours. Here's some of the original planting that we put in last year. This is a north-facing bank and only gets the sun later in the year when the arc of the sun has risen quite a bit. But it's also very sheltered, and we found these did do very well here throughout the summer. Being in a shady position meant the flowering period was extended quite a long way into summer, rather than them just being a spring flower that you'd normally expect. And these little ones are spread out quite nicely. I've got a few more over here just starting to emerge. They're much later than the ones that have been pot grown that we've purchased this year from the nursery to extend this planting. I'm pretty confident the soil here is going to suit them, because we have got this big bank of an anemone that's been here for years. Just let me take you over and show you that. It's just starting to come into bud. Just look at this bank, it's absolutely full of this little lovely white version that is tumbling down this quite shady bank into this grass. It's naturalised throughout here and is now spreading, look, right the way into this daffodil planting at the base and a long way sideways as well. So as well as planting some of the Balkan blue variety in patches in this same situation and aspect, we're going to try digging some of this up and moving some of this into further along on this bank to try and extend this planting, because when all this comes out in full flower in another couple of weeks, it's absolutely spectacular if short-lived. These little plants are really well established. Just look at the root on that. I suspect these have probably been sitting in there and growing away at the nursery for the last 12 months. So really nice little clumps that could even be split into a couple, but I think because we've got a whole tray of 15, we're probably just going to plant these as is, because the effect is going to be quite nice and very quick. So let's get planting these and see what effect we can have on this bank. Looking at the established anemone that's growing in this bank, I'm going to place these approximately 12 to 14 inches apart, just looking for an area that hasn't got bulbs in it or an anemone from last year. And this soil is very light and full of rotting material from an old tree stump that was at one time growing where that magnolia is planted at the top there. But a lot of roots will run through this bank. It's very free draining and quite light. So looking at planting these at around that spacing and trying to get the depth just about level with how they're growing currently in the top of the pots. So I'll see what holes I can create and get these planted out. The technique we're using for planting in this bank is just to create a hole more or less the same size and shape as the pot of anemones that we're going to plant into it, and getting it to the same depth, and rather than backfilling too much, the whole plug can go quite snugly into that hole, and then we'll just trickle a little bit of soil back in to make sure we've got good contact all around it. And a lot of this soil will wash down, so if we put it above, because this is on such a slope, we're putting the soil above where we've planted, and that'll gradually get washed back down, and the remaining plug of mossy soil just up onto the top of the bank. And there we go. Hopefully that will get settled in over the next day or so and start giving us some impact with this lovely anemone colour in amongst these spring daffs. So we'll get the rest of these two planted out and then continue along this bank We're going to space some right the way along to pick up the blue colour we've got coming in with the Narcissi. You can just see there the Muscari that were planted last year. Rather than being too purist on this bank, we're going for a mixed spring bulb planting, and these anemones are just going to help lift that and carry it right the way through as these later varieties come into flower throughout April. And there we go, the end result. Reinforce the planting, and these will hopefully stand like this and give us this lovely highlight of colour in this greeny bank for the whole of April into May, and maybe even longer. We'll see what happens and come back to these, show you them later in the season. I'm hoping we're going to have quite a few more coming through, but they're still just emerging, and that we'll have quite an extensive planting of these in years to come if they get established and start spreading out nicely.